Good evening and welcome to tonight's edition of The Probe. Tonight we are speaking up against witch hunting because for far too long our silence is fast becoming a case of consent. Why has abuse become a tradition? How did we sit as a society for old age to be branded as witchcraft for all these years? We were in this country when a 90-year-old woman, Equia Dente, was lynched in a horrendous, shocking, gruesome, and rather frightening manner, all in the name of being allegedly branded as a witch. How come this witch could not exact justice on her accusers or even vanish into thin air? She died a painful death, and as expected, we spoke up about it. But those who had to shout did, but just for a moment. And as usual, other pressing issues have staged it. Prosecution, or a semblance of it, began. But where are we with it 2 years on?
Make an appropriate contribution also to the Equia Dente Foundation to express my own revulsion at the awful, tragic act that has occurred in this region. It is vital, as the regional minister said, that it should not happen again. And we should all work together to ensure that never again do such acts disfigure the face of our nation.
Tonight, we get to track the promises made over the period to make this practice a thing of the past. Tonight is a gentle reminder that old age is not equal to witchcraft. Tonight, we will hand down the witchcraftpreneurs. My guest tonight is Dr. Angela Jamnabwaje, Executive Director of the ARC Foundation. I also have Professor John Azuma, Founding Executive Director, the Sane Institute. And in studio with me tonight is Madame Margaret Brew-Ward, is a Women's Rights and Campaigns Manager at ActionAid Ghana. Later on the show tonight also we get to celebrate the man John Evans Atto-Mills 10 years on. This is The Probe. We are live on Joy News, we are on Joy FM, Joy 99.7 FM, myjoyonline.com, we are on Facebook, DSTV channel is 421, GoTV is 144. I am Emefa Apawu and this is The Probe. A quick turnaround, we're right back.
That was the story of Equia Dente, a 90-year-old woman who was tortured till she died. She was threatened, then whipped to extract a confession from her. Then after the forced confession, she was tortured until she died subsequently.
A lady picked a quarrel with me and her son accused me of being a witch. Later, the people in the village took me to the Gambaga witch camp. They performed rituals which showed I was not a witch, so I came back to the village. The boy came to attack me at home. He was aiming for my neck, but I blocked it with my hand and he chopped it off. He fled, and to date, the police say they can't find him.
That is the story of Asibi Dut, a 40-year-old woman who is a resident of Sakogu in the northeast region of Ghana. For the past 8 years, she has been living without one hand. Her woes started when a young man accused her of being a witch. Asibi said a lady in her community picked a quarrel with her, and subsequently, the lady's son accused her of being a witch. Asibi took the accusation lightly, but realized the seriousness of the allegation when people in the community sent her to the witch camp in Gambaga to test whether she was a witch or not. The way a chicken died would determine her fate and the entire course of her life. In northern Ghana, when you are accused of witchcraft, you have to bear the full cost of the ritual. So Asibi took care of the full cost, and the ritual confirmed that she was not guilty.
I was scared of witchcraft allegations. The fowl said I was not guilty. The chief then asked me to go back to Sakogu and ordered that we use dialogue to settle our differences.
Asibi, who was 8 months pregnant, said she thought she was free, but the young man had other plans.
I was home alone. I was cooking when someone charged at me. He was aiming for my neck. He tried to cut it off with a machete, but I saw it fast enough and instinctively blocked it with my hand. So my hand got chopped off.
This is a society that we're living as a country, and is an alleged case of witchcraft, and we are focusing on Ikea Dente and the others that we've been highlighting in that hotline documentary here on Joy News. My guests via Zoom, Dr. Angela Jamnabwaje, Executive Director, ARC Foundation. Also have on Zoom Professor John Azuma, Founding Executive Director, the Sana Institute, and Margaret Brew-Ward is with me in the studio. She's the Women's Rights and Campaigns Manager, ActionAid Ghana. Well, I would take your initial reactions to this. Margaret in the studio could not watch what was going on, but for you, Dr. Angela Jamnabwaje, you've seen it all, but really, does this surprise you?
Shocking. It's still traumatizing. Yeah, I closed my eyes half the time, even though I've seen this over and over. And I've watched some other videos that have come out of other campaigns, including the Sana Institute's campaign against witchcraft allegation in the country. You can't watch these things and not be touched. You can't watch these things and wonder how a human being can be so cruel to another human being. But that's the space in which I work, and we see it very often, not only on witchcraft allegations, but other forms of abuse as well.
Prof, how did we get here as a society? You have to unmute, yeah.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Emefa, for this program and for reminding us as a nation where we still are. How did we get here? Indeed, Ghana is a very religious country, just like many other African countries. This is a deeply religious belief. It is deeply traditional and cultural. And we hold our traditions and our religions and our culture very dear. Yet some of these things are harmful, as we can see in the clip, as we can see in the lives that have been destroyed and the families that have been broken apart, countless families, countless lives that have been broken asunder in the north and across the country. These are traditions and beliefs that we need to confront and deal with. Nobody's attacking belief, nobody's attacking tradition, nobody's attacking culture. But if belief, culture, or tradition can cause such harm to individuals, to the vulnerable, especially the most vulnerable, then we have to wake up and do something about it.
Well, this wake-up call we've been trying to look at for the past few years, and it appears that we are not being heard. Is it that we are not shouting loud enough? We'll get into those details, but you couldn't watch it at all. You had your eyes turned away towards the wall. You've been engaging, trying to look at the situation. But first, I'd like to take your initial reaction, because I know that ActionAid has been doing a lot when it comes to Equia Dentist's situation in particular. There was a vigil last night that we'll talk about. But briefly, I'm sure your initial reaction, even though you are not able to watch, because you've seen it a couple of times.
Yes, thank you very much. It's not only the Equia Denta case. If you visit the supposedly witch camps and you see the conditions under which the women live, you will weep or you will cry for them. And then when you engage the women, the problems they have, feeding, like livelihood issues, and these are old and frail women. And some of them have to even provide free labor on the farms of the caretakers in order to be able to fend for themselves. So it is not only about the Equia Denta situation, because the torture led to her death. And that's, for me, it's also a wake-up call. And this led to our vigil yesterday. We seized the opportunity of 2 years. Yesterday marked 2 years exactly when the situation, the unfortunate situation happened. And ActionAid and our partners and collaborators seized the opportunity to organize a vigil to draw the country's attention that witch hunting is an issue. It is a big issue. Let me also add that it is in the northern part that we have witch camps. But witch hunting is also practiced in all parts of this country, and we must address it, because we have instances where you find pastors or religious leaders, and whether traditional religion or whatever, also accusing people of being witches. We see some on television and we allow them to go free. They tell people that, okay, your predicament is as a result of either your mother or a relative, and people because of that information, they go back home and maim people. So we should take the issue in totality. The difference is that in the northern part, we have camps specifically set up where the people are sent there and they are left. In fact, once they get in there, some of the family members even don't go after them or go and see to their welfare. Then it is not also about only the women that are there. Some of them go with young children, and guess who? Girls, supposedly to go and serve them. Yes, so they also get in there and their lives are affected education-wise, because the camps do not have schools. They have to go to school in the communities, and the camps are either close or in communities, so they have to go to school there. And then, you know, the stigma that is attached to alleged witch. So then these girls also suffer some of these discrimination and then the stigma. And because they're in the camps, they are left to fend for themselves, in most instances, these girls will have to do some work to be able to make some money and take care of their grandmother. So it is not only about the alleged witch, it also has some impact on the family as well. So it is time that as a nation, we address this issue once and for all. Because I didn't watch it, because I'm unable to watch such scenes. But when I visited the camps and interacted with the women, Prof was on that trip, you could see that they want to go home. Some of them said they want to go home. But how do they go home?
Okay. Well, these are some of the issues that we'll be getting into shortly. But Prof, let me come to you on this, because it appears that there are witchcraftpreneurs, is what I call them. They are those who are benefiting actually from this particular situation, the witch hunting amongst others. Tell us a bit about what you have noticed about this particular practice of these witchcraftpreneurs that we talk about.
Yeah, thank you very much. Again, this is something that's going on. It's been going on for decades, for generations in the northern part. And these camps they have become quite a controversial issue to talk about because of the discourse that has taken place in previous years. And a lot of the women run to these camps for safety, and yet these camps are the places where these women are convicted or whatever of being witches. So it's like, I put it this way, that the camps are like places where somebody sets your house on fire and turns around and says, I will offer you a room in my house for you to stay, and I will take care of you. So it is the witch doctors who preside over this whole thing to declare people witches. And that is why the practice continues. And these witch doctors are benefited from this practice. If you go to a place like the Gambaga and other places, a woman like Auntie Maggie was saying earlier, when any of the victims are ready to go home, even when it is safe for them to go home, they have to pay a discharge fee, and the discharge fee of about 700 Ghana cedis. These women cannot even afford their daily bread, and they are charged to pay a discharge fee of 700 Ghana cedis before the ritual will be performed to release them to go home. And psychologically, if the women are not able to afford this and to get this ritual performed, they don't feel psychologically able to leave the camp. They are afraid to leave the camp because of the belief that they will be haunted. So the camp owners are benefiting. While the women are there, they are free labor to the camp owners. There are people there who will fight tooth and nail to keep the camps going because they are benefiting from the camps. And apart from that, there are even some groups, not the witch doctors, not the tendanes, but some groups that are working around the camps, for whom these camps have become projects. Then when the camps will be going on, they will write projects, they will get money, they will raise funds, they will buy their vehicles, and the women are languishing there. So it has become a big industry. And many people don't even know that this is what is happening, and these poor victims are victimized over and over and over and exploited over and over as they are in these camps.
Well, Madam Angela Dramnawaje, we know that our constitution makes provision for such dehumanizing acts, but it appears that it's still in existence. We thought that with the queer dente, that will be the end of it, but from what I'm hearing, it appears that it's still ongoing. What happened to those who are supposed to be enforcing the laws?
Question, Emefa. I think that's one of the biggest problems we have in our country. We know how to write these laws. We know how to put these provisions in there. When it comes to enforcement, that's always been a problem. We are selective in our enforcement efforts in this country. If it has to do with money, we put in place systems, structures to ensure that we're able to do as much as we can to get money, okay? That's my own assessment of things. But when it comes to people who are not merely statistics, but they are people with ears, eyes, noses, people who have family, sometimes it's very, very difficult for the state to put in place the actual systems and structures that will protect. That has been the bane of this country when it comes to social legislation and provisions in our constitution. The Constitution, Chapter 5, is replete. If you take any one case of somebody accused of witchcraft, from the time of accusation all the way to the time in which the person gets into the camp and while they stay there until they die or they're released, several provisions of the Constitution are broken. It's a continuous thing while they are there. Their dignity is violated. All their rights to life, to security, to liberty, to education, to social security, to name them. And it's not something that happened to you once. It happens continuously, day by day, until you die, or, if by God's grace, you are released from the place. Okay, even when you're released, you continue to face the stigma, the exclusion, that comes from having been called a witch, okay? And the sad thing, and that's where I come in, where Prof says that there's a whole industry going on, and the women are traumatized over and over again. Look, very recently, there was a trip by Margaret, Prof, and a few people. And I remember in 2003, there was a similar trip. I went to parliamentarians. Look how far back that was. To Gambaga. We did almost the same thing that was done in 2022. And we are still in the same place. Okay? Now, I know, thankfully, that some members of parliament are actually working very hard to bring in a private member's bill to amend our Criminal Offences Act so that witchcraft accusation will be taken care of under our Criminal Offences Act. Now, that doesn't mean that there is no legislation at all to take care of these things. For example, there's trial by ordeal, which happens when people are accused and sometimes when they get into the camps. Okay, so people can be taken under trial by ordeal. There are also a whole host of criminal offenses, from assault to battery to threat of harm to threat of death to causing damage to many things in our criminal legislation currently that can also handle aspects of what happens to these women in particular when they are accused. And most of these things are not being applied at all.
Well, it looks like we're just frozen Madam Angela John Nabwach's connection just yet, but really the concern is about, we're hoping, like I was saying earlier, that Equia Dente would have been the last 2 years, and you had to hold a vigil yesterday. We've been following prosecution, for instance, and the concerns are that it appears it's just the wheel is actually grinding slower than expected. But I'm sure you've been following up on this whole process. Are you satisfied with where we are in terms of prosecution?
Thank you very much. Once the case is in court, we must also be cautious of what we say about it. All we know is that the case is in court, and in Ghana, as we say, the wheels of justice grind slowly. We expect that at the end of the day, justice will be served. And we hope that probably with this discussion going on, maybe the case will be fast-tracked a little. That is all I would say about it, in order to stay out of what? Contempt. But then, as we were discussing, after Equia Dente, a lot of cases have come up. We visited the camps, and we noticed that there are inflows. So there are inflows. So as maybe those inmates, I call them inmates because it's like a prison. Though you've not been tried by a court, it's like a prison. Let me put it this way. So as some leave, new ones come in because the accusation is continuous. And once you are accused, either your family will bring you there, or you yourself, you will run for your life, and for you to a place of safety or to a shelter where you can be a little bit safe. But how long can we continue this practice as a nation? In the 21st century, we have witch camps in Ghana, and we are comfortable, and we, like, as a state, I expect the state to marshal all its strength. I'm not saying a military one or a violent one, but if we marshal all our resources, we should be able to bring this thing to the barest minimum.
Do you think the state is actually interested in this? Because we know that civil society, you know where these witch camps are. It's surprising that up to now, nothing is happening on the part of the state. Do you think that we're really interested in abolishing it? We've had promises over the period.
We had promises. We've had a lot of national conferences. Remember, I think after Equia Dente, the gender ministry and other partners held a very big national dialogue or conference on it. And I think one of the outcomes was that there was a proposal to even go and convert the camps into old age homes and the rest. And that is where I differ. If we think as a nation we need old age homes, then we should go and establish old age homes somewhere, not turning the camps into old age homes with its all stigma and the rest. And one thing, when we went around, we actually noticed that in one of the camps, existing camps, the caretaker takes money from the women. Yeah, every week the women have to pay, I think, 5 cedis or so. These are women who are not working, very old, with their grandchildren and whatnot. So where are they getting the money? So if we do not take care and go and turn an existing camp into an old age home, it will be a business, another business venture for a caretaker somewhere, as Prof said. So for me, turning the camps into an old age home, we shouldn't go there. If we need an old age home, then the state should find resources and establish old age homes. And in any case, we don't have old age elderly people only in the northern part of Ghana. They are all over the country. Then we should come up with a policy, establish them all over the country, yes, and not specifically turning an existing camp into an old age. And some of the accusations, the reasons for the accusations, the fact that somebody dreams and sees you in his or her dream, you become a witch. We know there is climate change. So if the rain doesn't fall, and then we have to find a vulnerable old woman, a widow, a woman, and in most cases, these are women who do not have, let me say, powerful men in their families to protect them. So then they become the target. A woman who is doing well, maybe a divorced woman doing well becomes a target. Recently, there was a case we had when we visited in the area, one of the communities, that a girl who got around aggregate BC, aggregate 30, was, yes,
30.
Aggregate 30. Meanwhile, you know, in the cities, people are striving for aggregate 8, 8 ones and whatnot. Just because in that community, no girl had gone or passed to go to a secondary school. So for a girl to do that, we can, so anything.
So because she got 30, she's a witch.
She's a witch. And the whole process started, and then our partners had to link up with Shraj and other things to settle the situation. So Action Aid, since we've been working in the camps, in fact, we have worked with other actors, traditional authorities, religious leaders, state actors in the northern region, and through that, at least 2 camps have been closed. That is the Bunyasi camp and I've forgotten the other one in the course of the year. Yeah, so if we work together as a team, our position is that we can't just get up today and say tomorrow we are going to close the camps. If you close the camps, where would the women go? We need to go through a process of reintegration. And it takes time, it takes resources, so that we prepare the accused woman's her state, her mind. We prepare the receiving community. We engage with the caretakers of the camps and all the stakeholders, so that the grounds will create the favorable environment for the woman to go back. Now, in the areas where we managed to reintegrate the women and close some of the camps, those who didn't feel comfortable to go home,
back to the society,
to their communities, we engaged the chiefs in the villages, so they could get them a piece of land to farm on, help them to get some shelter, so they will be on their own. And
well, with the Bonyasi, for instance, I'm picking information that even though we managed to close it down, it looks like they are operating an OPD service, sort of. And we had cases where these women did not even want to go back to the society, some crying that they would want to stay. Their children actually came begging that they should allow them to stay, because reintegration will be a difficult thing. My community, Sarah Mabla D'Souza, was there, and this is the situation. But let me bring in Prof and then also Madam Angela Jamnabwaji, because the issue about access to justice for these accused persons is also a key concern. But Prof, what's the flimsiest of reasons you've heard in terms of why someone is branded as a witch, for instance?
Well, I think as Madam Maggie was saying earlier, the reasons are very, very flimsy. Ranging from somebody's dream to somebody doing well. I say this, I say, when the woman is looking very pretty, they are a witch.
Really?
When they are ugly, they are a witch. When they are smart, they are a witch. When they are not smart, they are witch. When their kids are doing well in school, they are witches. When their kids are struggling, so the woman never wins. So and somebody is living a very irresponsible life. They have taken to alcoholism, and they blame their mother. They blame
and men are not branded. It's only women.
Most of times it's the women who are branded. You see, but the other thing, Emefa, is that when you were talking about the state, this issue is not a vote winner. Because it's not a vote winner, in fact, it is a vote killer. If you go to those communities and you are speaking up against witchcraft accusations, you are likely to lose your votes in the constituencies. So the MPs, the politicians from those places, are tiptoeing around the issue. They are afraid to even speak up publicly about it. The state knows about it, so the president will come out and make all the right noises when these things happen, but they will not have the courage to take the steps. And I have said that, Emefa, this thing can be solved if the state, if the political, the powers have the will. If the government steps in and says that we want to close these camps by next year, in 12 months' time, we want to engage the chiefs, we want to engage opinion leaders on the ground, we want to engage civil society leaders on the ground, they will reintegrate these women safely. They can do it. It is a question of the will to do it, and they don't have the will because they are afraid they will lose votes. I have engaged the MPs from those areas. They will tell me privately, Prof, this is a serious problem, but you know, we can't talk about it publicly. You are not a politician. You don't stand for vote, so you can talk about it publicly. Because people believe in it. Doctors believe in it. Nurses believe in it. Police officers believe in it. The chiefs are serious believers in these things. So unless there's an intervention from the state, this thing will continue to be with us for years to come.
Madam Angela, so it appears that it's not only a human rights issue or a spiritual one or economic one. It appears it's political as well. And interestingly, these MPs that you talk about who are supposed to be, pushing for a law to prescribe this practice, like we're hearing now, they are tiptoeing around it because of political reasons. They might lose an election if they don't, if they actually speak up against it. Then what's the way forward?
Well, so like Prof said, they are the MPs who are in that area, which means that we can safely strategize to have MPs who are not in that area lead in the fight against it. And we are all Ghanaians. At the end of the day, we are, related one way or the other to each other. And so this is a matter of strategy. This is a matter of will. This is a matter of human rights, but it's also hydra-headed, which means that we need to have a broad coalition, but a seriously working coalition with people who are willing to stay the long haul on the matter, not a do and go kind of thing that has been happening over the ages. And then the political will has to involve state intervention. Look, clearly the state is what the Constitution has said protects the human rights of citizens. Therefore, the state has the responsibility. Everybody else must go upon the bandwagon of the state to put its will, its resources behind the dismantling of the system. Otherwise, the efforts will once again grind to a halt. I mean, I know Margaret is doing amazing work out there. There are other groups, I can name some of them, I've even forgotten them, the Sontabes, so many groups, the Presbyterian Church of Ghana, and so on, who have worked on this for years. It's about time we did something more concrete about it with the leadership of the state. And let me say here that when we talk about the leadership of the state in a matter like this, it means the gender ministry must be in the forefront. what is going on with the gender ministry now? Who is going to champion this fight when it comes to the leadership of the state? I think that is something that is institutional, is structural. We need to tackle it. Otherwise, who is going to lead this?
In its current state, in the absence of a gender minister, you think it's going to affect this whole fight?
Well, a gender minister, a substantive gender minister who is serious about the issues of gender, women and men in this country would have to lead this fight. And if there isn't one, where are we going? Prof will do his bit, Margaret will do her bit, Angela will say her bit, that person will say their bit from all sides. Even if we coalesce, we do not have the power of the state. And that is something that we need to understand. The state has the power and the resources and has the responsibility to do this and to lead it. And I think we have to put responsibility clearly where it belongs.
I see that Prof is nodding. You want to add to that? It appears you have strong views on the absence of a gender minister and its impact on this fight.
Absolutely. Emefa, it has been one of my biggest concerns that we have a nation, we have a very crucial ministry, the gender ministry, that is looking after some of the most vulnerable in society. And that ministry has largely been vacant for months, if not over a year. And we used to work with the gender ministry. We used to work with the gender minister. It was always not an easy working relationship, but at least we had a place to go to. With this, with the absence of the gender minister, it has made the work much more difficult. But like Madam Angela said, we have the MPs who are partners, and we are working with them. We are pushing the bill. We believe that if the bill comes, we have been doing some education, we have been doing advocacy, I have gone to meet with the chiefs, I've met with opinion leaders on the ground. Emefa, education alone is not going to do the trick. No. We need legislation that will send a deterrent to the communities. All said and done, when one person is arrested, the whole thing goes down. People are afraid of being arrested. We caused a base in the Upper East to be closed down. When we caused the members, the leaders of the camp, to be arrested and imprisoned and put in remand for about 3 weeks. When they were released on bail, they vowed never to talk about witchcraft again. And they don't talk about witchcraft up to date. So it can be a deterrent, and we need the legislation to get that as part of the education to move this one forward. But the gender ministry is crucial. We need the gender ministry to lead the fight.
Well, I'll stay on Zoom with you, Madam Angela, because the issue about access to justice for these accused persons is also of key concern. At least in Jojo's documentary, we saw the lady whose hand was cut off. Up until now, we're told that they can't find the young man that perpetrated the act. Also, with the Dente, 2 years on, we are still in court. What really, then, can we do about such situations? Access to justice.
Emefa, that's a big, big one. Access to justice in this country for the vulnerable, for women, for people who don't have much of a voice is very, very difficult. And sometimes it's not because somebody doesn't want to work. It's because it involves a number of actors, and some actors are not playing their role. So what I'm hearing, for example, is that they prepared this matter to go to court, and there are several adjournments because the accused person's lawyer is not showing up as they should. And because it's a murder charge, the accused person has to have a lawyer, and a lawyer that's showing up for them, okay? Sometimes the other people who have been accused, they don't turn up, and you go and find out it's about the police not having money to go and get them, to show up in court. And it can be messy because you have a number of key actors in the access to justice system. And yet, sometimes the deterrent action, the fact that we are even going to court and staying there, can itself be a deterrent thing. So we can't also do away even with what we have. As imperfect as it is, even if there seems to be some work that is going on, look, nobody likes to go to court and come back 10 times, 11, 12, 15 times. The inconvenience is enough to deter you and your family from doing the next act. And the money involved and all of that. So we need to work the system, even as imperfect as it is. And yes, legislation helps to get the system running. If we get more specific legislation, it means that, you know, the police can charge in more specific ways. And then it means that some people will have to pay or be held responsible for what they have done. And going back to strategy, you know, there have been times in our life in Ghana when, because of the belief systems of the people, even the institutions in that particular area, is actually becoming a roadblock, it's becoming a block in the way of tackling a particular problem. Mobilization has happened from the outside. I don't have to talk about this, but there are times when the police have mobilized from outside to go into an area where the indigenous police are afraid to tackle a problem. And they go and do the work well. Okay, so we are not helpless. There are many ways in which we can tackle this problem and make sure that in the next 5 years, look, in the next 5 years, if we make up our minds, we won't have a witches' camp in this country. If we can't integrate people, you know, back safely into their communities, we have examples of shelters. We can get shelters for people like that who find it difficult to be integrated into their communities. But generally speaking, this thing must not go on. It's a blight on the conscience of our country in the 21st century, year 2022. No.
Certainly no. Madam Margaret, maybe I will just add a bit more to the way forward, as Angela has been, you know, telling us about.
Yeah, so thank you very much. The way forward, I will add my voice to what our Prof and Dr. Angela have said, that we need the state to act. The state must show the commitment and the political will to address this issue. This issue is not beyond the state, because we recall so many years ago when we thought Trokosi was an issue. You saw it was led by the state. The state led it with all its institutions, and they managed to bring it down, if not eradicated. So if the state shows commitment, we can do it. Action Aid and partners, the Sontabers, the Presby Church, and the Reintegration Committee in the Northern Region, we've done it. So there is something to serve as a roadmap, and we can do it.
Okay. Well, I'll give you the final word. I'll give you a Prof on this also. What exactly? I'm sure those who are supposed to be acting, they are definitely watching us tonight. What would you say will be your final words in terms of the way forward actually in dealing or tackling with this particular situation?
I will say that this is long overdue. Like Madam Angela said, this is a serious blot on the nation's conscience. The president himself said the same thing. And we cannot keep just saying these things by word of mouth. We need to act. And the state can act if they want to act. Many, many centuries ago, women were burnt alive in Europe as witches. They stopped the practice when the states began to act. Over 300 years ago, they stopped that practice. Ghana is 300 years behind, but better late than never. As we drag our feet, as we keep making the political talks, vulnerable women are losing their livelihoods, losing their families, losing their lives, and not just them. Emefa, we have to know that witchcraft accusation is generational. When you are accused of being a witch, your daughter is likely to be accused of being a witch, and your daughter's daughter is likely to be accused of being a witch. It becomes a stain. The stigma is generational. And therefore, if we don't stop it, this is destroying communities, it's destroying families, and the state, it is a national security issue, literally. And if the state cannot act on this, then I don't know. If we cannot protect our most vulnerable, then what are we there for as a state, as a nation?
Well, count me in of any coalition, any such coalition to deal with the situation. I'm already in with the affirmative action. I'm in on this as well because old age cannot be equal to witchcraft. And our silence means that we are consenting to this. We better speak up about it. Abuse is not a tradition. Many thanks for your company this evening. Joining us in the studio, I had Madam Margaret Brew-Ward with ActionAid. I had Madam Angela Dramana-Boaje with the ARC Foundation, and also Professor John Azuma with the Senate Institute. I'm really grateful for your time. This is not the last of such conversations. We are always available for any such conversation to happen, such that we can abolish witch hunting. But in the final minutes of this evening's edition of The Probe, we are celebrating the man, John Evans Atto-Mills, 10 years on.
I have just arrived from the U.S., where I undertook a regular medical checkup. Thank God, everything is okay.
In fact, for 3 weeks prior to that, I spent every night with him in his room. I stayed with him. And the last night, I don't know what happened. He asked me to go home and then go and sleep. And I insisted I wanted to stay. He said, no, I'm fine. You know I'm fine, just go. He had a sinus problem. But then at 5 a.m., he called me. And then he said, I think he blew his nose and there was some blood that came. And it was on the carpet. I rushed to the castle around that time. And I was with him throughout. The rest of it, I would take to my grave.
The grave finally received Professor John Evans Fifi Atto-Mills on Tuesday, 24th July 2012 at the 37 Military Hospital in Accra. It was a gloomy afternoon, a day many hearts were broken and completely torn asunder. For the first time in the history of the Republic, a sitting president had taken a flight to the journey of all men.
Whilst I was in Osu looking around and stuff, I heard and I was like, Ernest, are you sure the convoy is not gone? Because I'm hearing this sounds like our convoy. So I didn't think much about it. We were just getting things and whatever. And then I got a call from this man. Oh, yeah, so the man had told me that he was coming. His name is Walanyo Agra. He was he was in charge of Sports Council, Ghana Sports Council or something like that. So he had told me that, so I told him that, oh, the old man will be traveling, so call the security guy, either Mr. Dade or Colonel Lawson, and then they'll let you know what time to come quickly. So I've told them to. So Mr. Agra calls me and says, come to the Accra Sports Stadium. So I thought that he had gone to see the old man and he wanted to brief me or whatever. I got there to the Accra Stadium and he says the old man is gone. I said, oh, how? Like, I was supposed to go to it's too early. Like, they're leaving in late afternoon, so it's too early. So how can the old man? So I thought that he had even missed his appointment and that the old man had already left to go to the airport or something. He goes, no, the old man passed away. Then no, I just fell down. Like, I literally fainted. Like, I just left the man. Like, in my head, I said, I just left him. We had lunch and I saw my auntie. My auntie didn't even she didn't even reach Kaswato booth. She didn't even reach and she got a call that the brother had passed away. So that is how close so for me, the whole thing it just happened so fast. It happened very fast. It happened very fast. I was in Osu before I could say Jack. Everything had just.
Well, celebrating the man, John Evans Atto-Mills, 10 years on, and we have a documentary that's Ghana's Greats that we've put together. Is airing in a few minutes right here on the Joy News channel at 9 p.m. and then also tomorrow, Monday at 8 p.m. Well, the man behind this particular documentary, Ghana's Great, Pakwesi Shandoff, joins us via Zoom. Pakwesi, tell me a bit about putting together this particular documentary we call Ghana's Great for the man John Evans Atto-Mills. How long really did it take for us to put it together, you'd say, first off?
All right, so we are in the month of July. The compilation of the contents began somewhere around March thereabout. But even before March, we had already had all the interviews, spoken to all the relevant persons. And by April thereabout, we were done with the compilation because we placed a lot of premium on it. Therefore, we set out to complete it very much on time, and we are set.
Okay, well, we'll be airing it shortly. I can't wait to watch, but really send us in on what to actually expect with this Ghana's Great.
Right, so, there's a lot of conversation about the man, Professor Atto-Mills, already, and many people have made assertions that glorify his humility and his modesty. But in this particular documentary, there are narratives that actually substantiate these traits that are hailed, across board. So, for example, anybody who walks through the struggles of an election would want to embrace the pleasures that come with it. But this is Professor Atto-Mills, who went through all the impediments to become president, yet he didn't want to embrace the goodies associated with the office. And that was very, of course, highly remarkable. Then you have somebody who, again, organically, he was an academic, so he was not interested in the whole enterprise of politics, yet he embraced it, and that did not change him. We've heard that typically when people venture into the arena of politics, they begin to compromise on their virtues and their morals and all of that. But in this documentary, Prof would prove to be, the distinct example in that particular respect. And finally, it's the angle of multitasking, how that he was an efficient president, and then he still stuck with his Christian ideals and still remained a very, endearing father, and his son would give all of those accounts. But there are other bits and pieces that, unless you watch, you would not really get what we are about to do.
Well, that's a good one. You are not giving out too much. We are staying glued to our set right here on the Joy News channel. Pakwesi Shandoff, great work there. After watching, I'm sure that the momos will flow. I'll send mine. Well, that's Pakwesi Shandoff, putting together Ghana's Great for the man, Professor John Evans Atto-Mills, former president of the Republic of Ghana. 10 years on, we are celebrating him right here on the Joy News channel, also on myjoyonline.com. I am Emefa Apawu. On behalf of the entire team, many thanks for being a part of today's show. For radio audience, we have a walk with Jesus. Please stay, but here on the Joy News channel, we're bringing you Ghana's Great. Do stay. Have a good evening.